What's up? What's up? What's up, streaming gang? Welcome back to the stream and happy Tuesday. It is a great day around these parts and we are excited to be live with you guys. I am coming off of the heels of a live stream that just ended about 10 minutes ago with our amazing friend Dave Rubin. Usually our new People of the Internet show that Dave and I are co-hosting is live at 1 p.m. Eastern. That got pushed back today to 2 p.m. Eastern. So I am like riding the wave of stream life right now. I need to go for a nice long walk because for the last 2 days I have sat in this chair for way too long, even after I went to the gym both mornings. But I can see why streamers, I have a dog hair somewhere on this microphone. Streamers and sedentary lifestyle people really struggle with making enough time to get all of their steps in every day. So we're going to beat the odds. We're going to get our steps in. We're going to be healthy people because the world needs good, healthy people now more than ever. If you guys clicked on this live stream and you have no idea who this chick is, hi, my name is Isabel Brown. I am an independent content creator originally from Colorado, but I now live in Miami, Florida. And every single day we go live at 3 p.m. Eastern to give you an objective truth and Gen Z perspective on all things going on in modern American culture and culture of the internet, if you will, our modern public square. We have so much fun getting to know you guys. So especially if you are new around here, do me a huge favor and hit the like button on this episode. That might look like a little thumbs up or it might look like a little heart depending on where you are watching. Most importantly, smash that follow or subscribe button to make sure that you are following along for all of our content today and every day moving forward. And I hope that you guys get an opportunity to tune into Dave and I's new show because it has been such a blast putting it on. If you guys haven't had the chance to watch it yet, we have a brand new live call-in show that we launched last week. It's with brand new software exclusively offered to very few creators right now from Rumble, called Rumble Studio, and we're really excited to be testing this out in real time with this new format. But basically it gives you guys the opportunity to video chat in live to a live call-in show, so we get to answer your questions, we react to the crazy people of the internet, and have a lot of fun along the way. I'm gonna say hi to some people in the live chat, so make sure that you're introducing yourself to us if you guys haven't already. Let's start over on locals today because I love you guys and you deserve all the love. Daniel Maynard, Alex Padron, African Warlord, we've got Magic Def and Johnny Diamond tuning in. You guys are the best people in the whole wide world. We love to see it. Over on YouTube, Church says, bro, that chick's optimism is so contagious. Stop. You know, I can't control myself. We can't control the joy around here. And I have found that just living in joy is a much better alternative than living in depression. So we're not going to do that around here, but I hope my smiling and my joy contributes some level of positivity to your guys' day. Ava, Franklin, G-Fact are all here on YouTube. We've got Evan and James watching. So glad to see you guys. Irish is here. We've got Martha and Kapui Copy tuning in. We love to see that. You guys are so great, and I'm so glad you are joining us over on YouTube. Over on Rumble, John Best and TZ Patriot. You guys are always kicking things off for us in our Rumble chat. We love to see it. Craven is here. We've got R. Lacoste tuning in, saying Isabel was great on the Charlie Kirk show. Thank you so much for watching. I joined Charlie for a full hour yesterday talking about how we can win over Gen Z women in particular with conservative and traditional values. It's a conversation that literally nobody else is having going into the 2024 election. So I hope I provided some good insights over there. Tuco Wright and many, many more are also here on Rumble. So glad that you guys are here. Okay, you probably clicked on this video because you saw the thumbnail of a pregnant man on the cover of UK's Glamour magazine and the words trans, pregnant, and proud glossing the cover of this magazine. We've actually talked about this story once before on the stream, but I thought it was worth us bringing it up again. This was the June 2023 cover of Glamour magazine's UK division, so over across the pond in England, of a pregnant man, which is really a biological woman, in case the math ain't mathin' for you in your brain today, talking about why men can be giving birth and why men can be birthing people as well. So it's a ridiculous story, but I want to bring it up today because this is the narrative that our society is continuing to push over and over and over again. This is not the only magazine cover I've seen talking about this. This is not the only publication I've seen running stories like this. This is a very, very prominent narrative in 2023 in the West, in Western society. Again, not just in America and the UK, but all over Europe, all over Canada. I am seeing countless stories just like this of pregnant men being glorified to try to keep your attention locked and loaded on this idea of men giving birth, of erasing womanhood and erasing the idea of our unique gifts to create life as women in the world. But meanwhile, while we're pushing this bizarre trans mom, trans dad, trans pregnant man agenda, what's really going on behind the scenes that should absolutely terrify you when you pull back the curtain is a plummeting, and I'm talking hemorrhaging, code blue, dying on the table fertility rate in America and around the West. While they want us to focus on pregnant men, what they're really trying to hide is the unbelievable plummeting fertility rate in America that's disappearing before our very eyes, and the rising rates of miscarriages in our society and pregnancies that can no longer come to term because of whatever particular reason that contributed to that. And the question that I have today, I'm going to ask it up front and we'll ask it again at the end of the stream. Why is no scientist, why is no major politician, why is no major celebrity that claims they care about feminism or women's health talking about this? Where are all of the questions about why our fertility rate is so low? Where are all of the questions about what might be contributing to mass infertility in society? And why are the loudest voices and the powers that be pulling these puppet strings to get us to look at the shiny thing over here with pregnant men instead of the inability for women to conceive or carry to term a child through our natural biological processes? Let's start with what media wants us to focus on, and that's this pregnant man idea and concept. Again, this was the cover of Glamour magazine UK with this model slash influencer who was born a woman, has decided to transition into being a man, named Logan Brown. They did this whole, do you even call it a maternity photo shoot? I guess it would be a paternity photo shoot if you're trying to follow all of the stupid mental gymnastics associated with all of this, saying, I'm a pregnant trans man and I do exist. No matter what anyone says, I am literally living proof that men can get pregnant through vaginal sex and having a uterus. Makes a whole lot of sense. Glamour's Pride cover star. This was for June. It was for Pride Month. So again, we've covered this before, but I thought it was important for us to talk about again in the context of today's story. Talks queer love, dealing with transphobia, and his journey to parenthood. Logan Brown is a transgender man who unexpectedly became pregnant with his partner, Bailey Mills, a non-binary drag performer in the UK. Sometimes I just need to take this down to the simplest math possible. So we're doing the math. Uterus plus penis, transvaginal sex still creates a child. So uterus, vagina plus penis, man plus woman in some capacity. But they're trying to say man plus non-binary. I'm just trying to do the math here, people. I'm not trying to be offensive. Sometimes it's just easier for me to bring it back down to the simplest biological terms possible. Man and woman have sex. Non-binary and man have sex and decide they are having a baby. So Glamour magazine UK decides to put this trans man on the cover of their magazine, saying Glamour's Pride issue celebrates the allyship that exists between women, cisgender or not, and transgender people through our shared experiences. In particular, pregnancy and childbirth, not a shared experience between multiple genders at all, But I digress. Something that is often not talked about with regard to the transgender community. And they ran this whole story about how Logan Brown is proud to be a trans man carrying this pregnancy and bringing attention to the idea that men can men can get pregnant and give birth. The article repeatedly says that it's transphobic. It's rampant transphobia from TikTokers who repeatedly comment, men can't get pregnant, who repeatedly comment, water is wet, the sky is blue, grass is green. That's rampant transphobia, I suppose. And so it was so brave to be able to do an interview like this to make sure that we were able to draw attention to all of this stuff. Logan went on to say in the interview, my daughter will be, daughter, are we assuming now that the child in your womb has a gender? Because I'm pretty sure that's rampant transphobia. But my daughter will be able to grow up knowing that she'll always be loved and accepted for whoever she is. What if she doesn't want to be a she? Did you just misgender your child on purpose? I don't know. And this story made huge headlines, went so viral a few months ago, all over social media, because anybody with half of a brain cell can admit to the biological reality that has always been true and will always be true, that men cannot get pregnant, men cannot give birth, men cannot have a period. These are very true biological realities that have always existed and will always continue to exist. But this story blew up because those of us willing to say scientific, objective reality and truth were immediately demonized as rampantly transphobic all over social media. Meanwhile, at the exact same time, the individual that was featured on the cover, Logan Brown, this person, decided to write a children's book about all of this that is now being released and is being heralded as one of the best-selling children's books in the West. In My Daddy's Belly, the story of a transgender dad giving birth by Logan Brown. Here's the cover of this book with tips for parents, helpful resources, and FAQs inspired by a real family. And here's the synopsis of this children's book. Yeah, there's definitely not an agenda to indoctrinate anyone with this stuff at all. There's definitely not an agenda to lie to children about any of this stuff at all. The description of this book, inspired by the author's real family, this heartwarming story about two dads eagerly awaiting the birth of their first child, follows the excitement and joy of welcoming a new baby into a loving family. The person giving birth just happens to be one of the dads. Wait, one of the dads? I thought the partner was non-binary. That's what the Glamour article said. Can you be a dad if you're non-binary? I thought you were a parent. The math doesn't math, people. I genuinely, the math can't math. I feel like I'm in 5th grade failing math class again. My dad's screaming at me at the kitchen counter, except the people screaming are trying to tell me that 2 + 2 does not equal 4. No, you are stupid and transphobic. Written in a way that is accessible to children of all ages and easy to understand. Again, definitely not an agenda happening to children here. It gives some basic facts about transgender dads giving birth. Men cannot give birth. Women can give birth. That's a basic fact. And celebrates new life with colorful, bold illustrations and a wholesome story with the message, it doesn't matter what your family looks like as long as you are loved. Important caveats under the description of this book. Alongside the story, there are optional interactive questions to help children explore their feelings in a safe space, and FAQs, tips for adults, and links and resources to family-centric transgender charities. This book is excellent for introducing children to transgender parents, opening discussion around different families, enabling children to grow into kind and understanding adults. So that's happening, and that's what the media is wanting us to focus on, is this blatant lie that, again, anyone with any tie to objective reality or objective truth whatsoever would look at and laugh at, because it's objectively not possible or even remotely feasible for a man to get pregnant, for a man to give birth, for a man to have a period. And yet that's the story that is constantly dominating my social media, the mainstream media, women's interests magazines, and social media and advocacy accounts. So it got me thinking the other day as I saw a map that totally changed my perception on this issue. Why are they pushing so unbelievably hard for us to focus on something that is clearly so preposterous that it's not true? We know that it's not true. Everybody says that it's not true on social media. People on college campuses are speaking up saying this isn't true. So if we know that it's not true and people are getting backlash for sharing these stories, why are they continuing to do everything in their power to shove it down our throats and make us focus on it instead? Anyway, when they know we're not buying it. Maybe it's to distract from a larger story or to draw our attention away from something that is far more concerning. And I happen to personally think now, my own opinion, is that they're trying to distract us by trying to get us to believe men can get pregnant because women can't anymore at an alarming rate in the midst of American fertility rates completely disappearing, ghosting us into the ethos right before our very eyes. I came across a map about this on TikTok from the CDC and the National Center for Health Statistics. And somebody was comparing the map of American fertility rates from 2005. I'll try to move myself. Here we go. From 2005 to 2021, which is the year of most recent data from the National Center for Health Statistics, about fertility rates in America. And here's the data from 2005. You can see that the highest fertility rates are marked by this dark purple color, and almost everywhere in the country, particularly in the West, we had a pretty high fertility rate. Everybody was expecting it was pretty normal to get pregnant, to give birth. People were having a lot of kids. This wasn't really that long ago in 2005, longer than you might immediately assume in your brain. It's been a hot minute, but it's not exactly like we're talking about 30, 40, 50 years ago. This was 2005. If you look at the data from 2005 to 2021, the entire picture completely shifts. This is what fertility rates look like in America in 2021. The white color being the lowest possible fertility rate as per the statistics and the data in America. 2005, 2021. How is it possible that our country went from some of the highest possible fertility rates to essentially nothing from 2005 to 2021? And why is no one talking about this? That map, when I saw it on my TikTok For You page, I stopped dead in my tracks. I genuinely could not believe things had gotten that bad. And nobody is talking about it. I had no clue that that was going on. And I'm someone with 2 degrees in biomedical sciences, somebody who researches this stuff quite regularly and learned quite significantly in an academic setting about things like fertility rates and how public health plays into that. And not once in my entire graduate master's program at Georgetown for biomedical sciences, policy, and advocacy was I ever told that fertility rates had gotten this bad in the United States of America. Nobody even mentioned it as a possible problem, let alone something that was fundamentally changing the nature of our country as we know it. Pew Research ended up putting more of this data together in December of last year, so just about a year ago. God, that's crazy. How did we get to almost December of 2023? Talking about this long-term decline in fertility in the United States of America. They talk about how it's going to impact the United States economically and fiscally. But when you look at just the sheer numbers and the sheer statistics here, this should absolutely terrify you. Absolutely terrify you. The Pew Charitable Trust analyzed a bunch of CDC data and cross-referenced a bunch of stuff to find that 43 states, almost every state in the country, recorded their lowest general fertility rate, which represents annual births per 1,000 women, in at least 3 decades, essentially all-time lows in 2020. 43 states. Every single state in America, except for North Dakota, experienced losses when the most recently published 2020 dates are compared to averages over the decade ending in 2020. In a fancier, or in a less fancy way of saying that, in a less academic way of saying that, they're saying every single state in the country, except for North Dakota, had a dramatically lower fertility rate in the decade from 2010 to 2020 than they did from 2000 to 2010. Interestingly, the severity of the declines varies greatly, with Western states generally experiencing the most severe fertility rate drops. Arizona and Utah declines were already more than double, analyzing this data, of the 50-state average. So I would be really curious to know what the heck is going on in Arizona and Utah. But again, just to make this painfully obvious to you, fertility rates in America has continued to fall. There's been no uptick whatsoever. It's been a constant downturn since 2008, and the latest available data covering 2020 and reflecting children conceived prior to the pandemic showed 43 states recording their lowest general fertility rate in at least 3 decades. Some analysts and statistical analysis is suggesting that America actually has our lowest fertility rate ever in our nation's history. This is how the United States average looks nationally in the blue, and these are all individual different states. Utah was doing something right in 2005, let me tell you. They're not anymore. But generally speaking, America's fertility rates are dramatically disappearing right before our very eyes, and no one is talking about it. Meanwhile, we actually aren't having enough people to replace our current population, by the way. So we're not birthing enough people to replace our current population, and we're not even immigrating in enough people to replace our current population. So Pew Research has this whole analysis and whole data breakdown on how this is going to impact the economy. I think there are much more significant cultural impacts than to how this simply impacts the economy. But it's interesting to think about school enrollment and how many schools might be forced to close and how many people might be out of jobs. Government spending, because you don't have enough taxpayers to actually make the government work. Talk about entitlement programs, that you don't have enough people to start paying into those things. Not that we ever were going to expect to receive Social Security or any of the other programs that we pay into anyway, because our government is so unbelievably bankrupt. But it is interesting to think about the long-term economic and societal consequences of what's happening when we're not having enough kids. Even more alarmingly, though, than people not having kids is people trying to have kids who are unable to. The National Institutes of Health, and specifically the National Library of Medicine, published this paper on miscarriage very recently, which shows interesting data about the United States of America that honestly should break your heart. They say spontaneous abortion, otherwise known as miscarriage. I hate when they conflate those two words to be the exact same thing in clinical settings, because they are not. One is an elective procedure, one happens beyond your control. Miscarriage is defined as the loss of pregnancy less than 20 weeks gestation. The American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists, OBGYNs, estimates that it is the most common form of pregnancy loss. It is now estimated in America that as many as 26% of all pregnancies end in miscarriage. 26%. In case that's not immediately obvious to you, that's 1 in 4. More than 1 in 4 pregnancies today are ending in miscarriage. These children are unable to be brought to term. They are unable to survive inside their mother's womb, let alone outside of their mother's womb, and nobody is talking about it. 26% of pregnancies failing to result in a child outside of the womb, where your child is dying inside of the womb. And how is no one talking about this? I genuinely cannot believe we've allowed this to become so normalized in society that statistically, probably every single woman in my generation is going to experience a miscarriage or might not be able to get pregnant at all. some combination of the two even, because it is so unbelievably normal to experience infertility or to experience miscarriage, but nobody's asking how we got here or how we try to get out of this problem. In fact, we're not even acknowledging that it is a problem. Can anybody name, chat, one politician, one major scientist that regularly does the rounds on podcasts or in the mainstream media, one influencer who puts on her pink hat and pretends that she cares about all things women's issues? No, because instead we've created a culture of death where we're celebrating death, and that's what we're trying to focus on, negating the entire premise of women's health and boiling it down to abortions, the potential loss of a woman's life and the guaranteed loss of her child's life, instead of noting that this is happening without even trying in our society anyway. Why is no one asking about perhaps how rampant birth control usage and long-term regulation of our hormones artificially might be playing into this, when almost every single woman in my generation is actively attempting to be prescribed birth control by her physician or by her dermatologist, by her school counselor, as the one-size-fits-all magic Band-Aid solution to any health problem that she's dealing with? Why is no one demanding an environmental impact study, perhaps, on chemical abortion pills, which make up more than half of the abortions performed in America today? And then those pills and the ingredients in them that are still active, by the way, after you've digested them, are going into our wastewater supply and potentially impacting American drinking water and even wildlife populations. Why is no one trying to ask how our diet, or lack thereof more appropriately, or our exercise, or lack thereof perhaps more appropriately, might be playing into this plummeting fertility rate that we are seeing in society? Why is no one asking about this? Maybe they don't want us to know. Maybe they don't know themselves. But one thing has become incredibly obvious to me researching this subject with more and more and more depth. Somebody has to start asking these questions. I am extremely vocal in the pro-life movement, and you guys know this about me. I've been incredibly vocal this last year in particular on social media and on college campuses. I had the incredible fortune of traveling with Kristen Hawkins, who is the founder and CEO of Students for Life of America, on her spring speaking tour to over a dozen college campuses last spring semester, talking about the lies the abortion industry is trying to tell the individuals of my generation, one of which is that chemical abortions are safe. They're safe for you, they're safe for the environment, etc. And they're really not. And while I was on this speaking tour, I ended up doing a whole deep dive research project into the abortion pill, which is actually 2 pills in chemical abortion, and how it might be poisoning our environment. The fact checkers love to fact check me on this. They've already tried to on Instagram and TikTok. The real answer is nobody knows if this is truly happening. We have a pretty good guess that it is happening, but nobody wants to do the research to confirm it one way or another, because it would be the biggest environmental scandal perhaps of all time if in fact this is proven to be correct. So for all the fact checkers, this is a theory. I'm not trying to say this is 100,000% happening, but Students for Life put together this really interesting website called thisischemicalabortion.com. I highly recommend you go check that out. They have all kinds of resources to understand how chemical abortion is not safe. It's not safe for people, but it's also certainly not safe for the environment. And I love this graphic that they pulled from The Scientist, the journal The Scientist, about how pharmaceuticals move through our environment regardless of what the pharmaceutical is, right? You flush it down the toilet, it goes through a sewage treatment plant, it then goes into water supplies in rivers and lakes and oceans. It impacts wildlife who happens to eat or drink something in that water supply, fish populations, bird populations, mammal populations. We eat the animals who then eat these things or drink these things, and it just ends up coming full circle. And what's so unbelievably interesting is that the current FDA and the current EPA is refusing to do a study, an environmental impact study, on how abortion pills might be following this same process that we know every other pharmaceutical is following this same process for. They refuse to even do the study, which blows my mind. They say that there's no regard for women or the planet on this issue. This raises relatively new and unaddressed issues for those pushing chemical abortion pills on a global scale. Their goal is a fast sale without any testing that might preserve a woman's life or ability to have future children, and with the expectation that she experiences a horrific bleeding event in a bathroom away from their offices, flushing away dead human tissue, the fetal tissue of an aborted child. Along with her placenta, you're told to just flush these things down the toilet, which can carry infection. It can cause all kinds of problems when there's medical waste going into the environment. But when it comes to pathological waste, the medical waste generator, the one who is in charge of the process that created the waste, is responsible for the handling of the human remains. For example, a person whose limb is amputated isn't given the job of disposing it. That task is supposed to stay with the medical professionals whose actions lead to the pathological waste. Why is that not the case with the abortion industry? As I continued to do more and more research on this, it blew my mind to think about the fact that in our water supply right now, in our wastewater, and then eventually what comes full circle environmentally into potentially, I'm saying potentially, just putting this out there, our drinking water and the drinking supply of other animal populations for fish, for birds, for mammals, for plants, etc., is that not only do we have human tissue, medical waste of a deceased human being and a placenta being flushed down the toilet into our wastewater supply, we also have active metabolites that are present in these pills that don't become inactive after you digest them. So what makes an abortion pill work, what cuts off food supply for your child, or what causes them to be expelled from your uterus in a premature labor, ironically a forced birth, which I know we hear a lot of that term, but that's what's caused by these pills. Those metabolites are still active and still able to work after they've passed through your body and after they've been flushed down the toilet. In other words, our government is refusing to ask, could we be telling millions of women every year to flush these pills down the toilet, to pee, and it's still active while they've taken them? And then we unawareingly are aborting other people because the active metabolites in these medical pills that we are handing out are still active and are making their way through our wastewater, into the environment, into animals that we might eat, into other human beings, potentially into our wastewater system and our drinking water system. Why won't they do the study? Why will no one do a study on how long-term consumption of oral contraceptives, of hormonal birth control pills, might, I say might, for the fact checkers, be playing into how our hormones function when we want to get pregnant? If you spend a decade or 15 years or 20 years trying to retrain your body not to be pregnant, is it at all possible that perhaps your body has a hard time staying pregnant or getting pregnant later on in your life? Every expert, every doctor, every journal article will try to tell you that birth control has no impact long-term on a woman's fertility. But I just cannot get past the idea of looking at a map like this in 2005 when teenagers probably were not being prescribed birth control en masse, and now 2021 when the generation of teenagers being prescribed birth control is growing up and getting married and thinking about starting families, and now we can't. Why is no one asking about that? And this goes for men as well. I read something else the other day about how testosterone levels and sperm counts are dramatically decreasing in young men in America and the Western world today for a zillion reasons, because of sedentary lifestyles, because of diet, because of chemicals, endocrine disruptors that might be present in your soap or in your cleaning chemicals around your house or even in the clothes that you wear. Why is no one asking about this? I honestly have come to the conclusion, and it's the only one that I can logically try to wrap my head around, the reason nobody's asking about this is because they don't want us to know. They don't want us to be thinking critically about this. They certainly don't want us to take things into our own hands and prioritize autonomy over our own lives. But maybe there's more to the story here. Maybe there's more in terms of an agenda behind some of this. That is my tinfoil hat conspiracy moment contribution to this conversation. But there's a reason that the powers that be aren't investigating this. There's a reason journalists aren't asking these questions. There's a reason scientists are not getting grants to go study this stuff, or even applying for grants to go study this stuff in the first place. There's a reason the pharmaceutical industry is given immunity when stuff like this happens, so that they can't be sued later on. There's a reason that our entire culture is trying to get you to go look at the shiny, cool, new thing of pregnant men on the cover of every magazine and all over your TikTok For You page, because this is guaranteed to get your attention so that you don't pay attention to the real issues that matter to a country who cannot get nor stay pregnant in the future. The objective of so many of these just jerks who have a complete addiction to power and cannot even fathom the idea of not controlling every single tiny aspect of your life. The secret is these people don't value human life. They don't value yours, certainly. They say you will own nothing and you will be happy. You will be a pawn to help keep me in power. But they also are doing everything in their power to limit new life in the future. Don't let them. I don't know what the answer to some of this is, and honestly, it kind of feels like emptying the ocean with an eyedropper, trying to figure out how the hell we got here and how on earth we are ever expected to move forward and try to make that map look a little bit more purple with our generation. I don't know that that's even possible, given the insane amount of endocrine disruptors that are just present in our entire society, in the clothes that we're wearing, in the food that we're eating, or not food, it's really processed crap, in the plastics that we put our food in the emissions from our cars, in the stuff that we put on our bodies in the shower, in our makeup, in our laundry detergent. It's everywhere. Maybe it's not even possible to try to take some of this back. I don't know. But one thing has become incredibly clear to me. You want to live a radically countercultural life in 2023. Dare to fall in love, delete your dating apps, and stop screwing around in hookup culture. You can tell the lies of the abortion industry to shove it, get married, and have as many kids as you possibly can, because how they are doing this and why they are doing this, I'm not sure, but someone somewhere is trying to take that right away from you. Don't let them. In whatever power or independent autonomy you have on this issue. Fall in love, get married, have tons of kids, and raise them appropriately to believe in objective truth, to seek true justice in our broken world, and to get answers to questions like these that very few people are willing to ask. You want to know how you change the world? It's not this radical overthrow or violent approach to get rid of everybody in positions of power. Changing the world has always started with, and will always start with, going home and loving your family. Mother Teresa said that, and it has always continued to be true. If you want to change the world, go home and love your family. And my message to Gen Z as an attaché to that would be, go start a family. Go fall in love. Find someone to run this beautiful adventure race that we call life together with, side by side as your best buddy, and have this outpouring of love for one another that leads to the creation of new life in having children. There's something so beautiful about tradition, and there's something so meaningful in our broken world that does not value children at all, to try to contribute on the flip side of that in any way that we can. And you might not be in the capacity in your own life right now to be able to go get married and start having kids immediately. I'm not going to tell you just go marry anybody. You need to marry the right person, and I really do believe in that. But I honestly think how Gen Z is going to change the world radically, transformatively, is by going home and loving our families. I don't know how we get to the bottom of what the heck is causing all of these insane infertility rates and insane miscarriage rates. It's time for us to put the pressure on people who can help us find out what the hell is going on and see if there's anything we can do about it. But chat, I'm really curious before we move over to locals. Did any of you even know this was happening? Like, I had genuinely no clue America was struggling this much, that we were recording our lowest fertility rates of all time, and that more than a quarter of pregnancies were ending in miscarriage. I'd heard anecdotally from a lot of friends that are struggling to get pregnant, from certain family members that are struggling to get pregnant or who have had miscarriages, but I had no idea the scope of things was this bad. No idea. Alex says no. I had no idea. I can't be the only one who had absolutely no realm of concept for this even being the reality in our society today. I don't know. Joseph on YouTube says I had absolutely no idea about this. Franklin did know. A number of people are talking about population collapse. Okay, that's good. I'm glad people are talking about this. Chad on Rumble says it's not just America, it's worldwide. That is true. Fertility rates are down everywhere, all across the world. African Warlord says, I think it's going to take students at a really good university creating an actual study to be looking into this. That's an interesting concept. I hope somebody will do this. But for the most part, people don't even know that it's happening. Which brings me to my last little message for you guys. Be really cognizant of who and what you are following on the internet. I try really, really hard to be following a whole breadth of diverse voices. I'm trying to see everything that's out there on the internet to share it with you guys through the lens of truth, and I think that's important. But if you're following people whose entire existence is to try to generate manufactured outrage in you over things that don't really matter and won't really impact your life on a day-by-day basis, unfollow them. It's okay. It is okay to unfollow people. We as a society and as consumers desperately need to be seeking out truth and seeking out actual information that pertains to our day-to-day lives, because we live in a world that is constantly governed by notifications and news, but 99.9% of that news has no bearing on our lives whatsoever. These are the issues that matter, and these are the issues that the people you follow should be raising alarm bells about. If they're not, if they're posting stupid like own the other side clips or stupid clickbait content to try to generate manufactured outrage in you, it's probably time to unfollow them, because we don't have enough room in our brains to think about all of the things all of the time. Just like the media is trying to distract us with this idea of pregnant men instead of asking the questions that really matter, individual creators and content creators do this as well on social media. It's okay to lessen the amount of information that you take into your brain every day and to prioritize the issues that really, really matter. And I can promise you that's exactly what we are going to be doing here on the stream today, for the rest of the year, and certainly going into 2024, when I can guarantee you there's going to be a whole lot of manufactured outrage as we get closer to the next presidential election. Before I let you guys go and we jump over to locals, which you're all invited to join us for, do me a huge favor and hit the like button on this episode. That might look like a little thumbs up or a little heart, depending on where you are watching. Ring the notification bell and smash that follow or subscribe button to make sure that you guys are always aware of the new content that we are posting right here on my channel, wherever you guys happen to be watching. I'm dropping a link right now in our live chat as well for our amazing friends over at Public Square, who helped to make this episode possible. Public Square now has over 70,000 American small businesses, all of which are pro-family, pro-freedom, and pro-life. So if you're looking to support businesses that are very passionate and invested in answering these questions, like the ones we talked about on the stream today, you can find all of them on Public Square. I just dropped a link in our chat to have you guys go check them out, especially if you are a business owner of any kind, place that sells clothes, you help people plan vacations, you're a grocery store or a coffee shop, you need to be listing your business on Public Square. And for you guys that are looking for some Black Friday shopping deals, Public Square also just launched their new one cart checkout, which works just like Amazon, where you can check out from multiple companies all at the exact same time in the same transaction. Go check out all of these amazing small businesses on Public Square using that link that I just dropped in our chat. I'm also dropping the link to our locals post-show Q&A for you guys. You are all invited to join us, and we have some awesome locals exclusive content that is coming to you guys this week, including an interview with my amazing new friend Jefferson Bethke. You guys might recognize that name. He is a pretty renowned Christian author and does a lot of men's ministry. We talk about how the nuclear family, as America sees it, that might not be what's actually proposed to us from a biblical viewpoint of family and where we can be better. Very interesting conversation, and I can't wait to share that with you guys exclusively over on Locals. So all of that to be said, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and Getter, we are back for the stream tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. Locals, don't go anywhere. We will be right back.